I'm not sure how it happened, but I guess it turns out that today is the day I gave all my most persistent thoughts on the subject of science fiction in motion picture form. Uh, One or two of them were shorts. The most recent one I thought was going to be a short, but it ended up being longer, or at least longer in terms of apparently, I guess, if they, after a certain length, you have to tell YouTube that it's a short. And I didn't know nor care how to do that. So I called it a short while doing the piece, but when I got around to uploading it, it wasn't a short because I didn't tell YouTube to make it a short because I neither knew nor cared. But this, folks, is the big one. This could go on for an hour or more. I think I maybe could to discuss this for a day or more. This is huge. It's about Star Trek The Next Generation. And the following question: what the fuck is a riker? I'm quite serious and I'm quite earnest as a person can be about a science fiction show. A person like me can be about a science fiction show, which is fairly serious and earnest. But there's a big problem in my discussion on this, which is I just know how totally unobjective I am on the subject. Uh, I want to ask you to try to convince me, and yet I know I just probably can't be convinced. You might be able to convince me in the comments for a moment that there's some reason why there's a thing called a Riker, that character meant anything. And then I'd go watch an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, and we'd be right back at square one. I dislike the character. I absolutely dislike the character Riker. There's something utterly obnoxious, I feel, about that character. I don't hate the character. Because to hate the character, there'd have to be a character. And there isn't. There's nobody home. There's nobody home, bro. You know? And like, he's, I mean, I get it. He's a meat and potatoes guy. And you might think to yourself, yeah, well, like, what's wrong with you? Can't you understand? He's a meat and potatoes guy. And I guess my problem with that notion is, I know how Star Trek works. I know that the fact that the characters were not fully formed in the first season of Star Trek created a tradition wherein you don't fully form the characters in Star Trek. But it didn't work on The Next Generation, and not just because of Riker. With the other characters, the reason it didn't work is that they were all fully formed. You see nothing like the character development of Spock between the first and second season of the original series in Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm not saying no character development happened. Truth be said, though, nothing much that I noticed. And like, I can object to Troy. Uh, but I like her for some good reasons and a lot of all the wrong reasons. I suppose everybody else thinks, every single other human being in the world probably thinks that Seven of Nine is sexier than Troy. I'm divided. Seven of Nine is sexy as all get out, but Troy, man, that tush just do not quit. And those mammalian protuberances just do not quit. They just don't quit. And yeah. You don't have to be a person with a lot of subtlety and nuance to notice that Troy has exactly as many powers as are necessary for the episode, and has absolutely the lack of those powers as is necessary for the episode. You don't have to. But I think there were other things about that character. Definitely, they really did do real character development. I'd say maybe Troy is probably the character that had the most development in the show. Actually, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So with the other characters, it was that they had a personality, and it just didn't evolve much. Even Troy, compared to Spock, between the first season and the second season, there's just really just nothing compares to that in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Not even close. Um, but Riker, I think they were hoping the magic would happen, like in the original show, just like Gene Roddenberry said, just like he said. But with Riker, I just think it just didn't. The magic just did not ever happen with that character. That character did not develop, and that character was a piece of cardboard. And they tried. And that's the thing. The reason why I suspect that the reason why you won't ever be able to convince me on anything with that, I mean, besides the fact that I could just go watch an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, is, my favorite, and I'm not the only one, episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation is the cliffhanger where Picard is going to be bored. As much as I knew how Star Trek worked, at that age, I think it was about 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. At that age, I'm like, I know how Star Trek works. But I'm looking at this situation, and it's like, that's it. The series is over. Picard is Borg. And you can overestimate. I mean, this is a well-known thing in Star Trek circles that it was a little contrived, and I think you could overstate that. But I remember saying it at the time. It's like, yeah, it's not the end of the series, but that's because it was so contrived the way. And I'm not saying there's universal agreement. There's no universal agreement on anything anywhere. But I mean, you can. I think it could be. I think a few people have overstated how contrived it was. Although I'm not sure I would have thought that when Picard went back human And it's not only just that it was contrived, it's like it wasn't even an explanation, because the Borg now had the information, so it made the rest of the series contrived. The Borg now had the information on what a human is. It made the rest of the entire series contrived. Uh because goodbye humanity, not just goodbye Picard, goodbye humanity. Watch that episode if you haven't. Yeah, and I think most people talk about to their audience like they're 12 on YouTube. So all you 12-year-olds out there, go out and watch the cliffhanger on season whatever it was, where Picard almost becomes a Borg. And if you know your Star Trek, it's like, you tell me how that's supposed to work out, because it's not. I'm not joking. I'm of that generation, and it put me in a real spot, because I honestly, I had to stop thinking about it. What it's like, I can't figure out how they're going to fix this, and I guess cliffhanger. Talk about a cliffhanger. I think that's one of the greatest cliffhangers of all time, if they could have pulled it off. And I and a lot of other people don't think they really did. They just sort of pretended like they did, you know. But today I think I may have come up with an answer to the very important question: what the fuck is a riker? And I'll tell you what I think a riker is. A riker is I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit. That's what a riker is. I guess that makes sense a little bit. Because that's what you think every moment he's on the screen. Every time he's on the screen doing anything, you're left thinking, I guess that makes sense a little bit. And that's what a riker is, folks. It's an I guess that makes sense a little bit. That's what a riker is. That's my final answer. That really could be the answer I stick with for the rest of my life. I doubt it. Because I just at this point, I'm at the point where I just like to ask the question, what the fuck is a riker? And if there's an answer, well, that ruins all the fun, doesn't it? But honest to Pete, I never got that character, and I never liked that character. It's like, I want to understand the character Riker, but at this point, only in one sense. I want to understand Riker for Star Trek. There's nothing about Riker that makes me want to understand what is a Riker. For Star Trek. Because there shouldn't be Star Trek characters that have no reason to exist. Um, and that experience, I think, may have affected that experience, that opinion, whatever you want to call it, may have affected my whole thing on Star Trek, because I never really got into, I never got into Deep Space Nine. And by the way, this is kind of my answer to the question: when did they start just putting certain kinds of characters? But I doubt it. Certain kinds of characters in a thing just so that they can have done it and they prove that they're all woke and stuff. Like a gay transsexual black Doctor Who, et cetera, et cetera. overtly gay characters in Star Wars, that sort of thing. Lesbian characters, all that stuff. When did that start? I think it started with like Deep Space Nine and Voyager. But like, I was at a point when I wasn't watching much TV by the time, what's it called? That next thing that they did where they went back in time. Can't believe I can't think of it. What's it called? Strange New Worlds? No, that's some newer thing. I'm talking back in the 90s. What the heck was that called? Was it even called Star Trek? I think it was at first not called Star Trek, and then they put the word Star Trek in it the second season. You know the one. One with the sexy Vulcan and that nuclear time traveler guy is in it as the captain and stuff like that. You know the one. Never got into that because, like, I wasn't watching a lot of TV. And then, seriously, and as you have noted in this little visual essay and in maybe the previous one, um, like, some things just inordinately bother me. And, like, I guess the stupid theme song bothered some people a little bit, but it bothered me a lot. I couldn't get over it. This stupid song that's totally un-Star Trek. Oh yeah, it was called Enterprise. Now I remember. Thank you, goodness. I couldn't get over it. I didn't want to watch it. Don't know these characters, and like, just if I had been watching TV, I'm pretty sure just that opening song could have very well. I mean, if I managed to get into it a little bit, I could, like, turn the sound down and go off and do something for a couple minutes while that stupid fucking song played. But yeah, it bothered me a lot. But with Voyager and Deep Space Nine, I felt that they were doing that do it to do it thing. Have a black captain so that you can have had a black captain, have a woman captain so that you can have a woman captain, have a gay cook so that you could have a gay cook, have a gay hologram doctor so that you could have a gay hologram doctor. So that you can say you had a gay hologram doctor and a gay cook. Like when has a cook ever had a part in a Star Trek show, man? A lasting part in a Star Trek show. Seriously, the cook? You don't need cooks. You don't need cooks. You've got food replicators. You don't need cooks in a Star Trek. So I just never got into them. 7 of 9 made me want to watch Voyager just to get a load of that. Unabashedly, I guess. I mean, I don't know. What can I say? Damn, Gina. Just damn, Gina. Damn. I'm just saying. But yeah, but like, like, part of the reason I wasn't going to get into them is Riker. It's like, do I want to take a risk on the possibility that a character will not develop in Star Trek? If I already think that they're doing a black guy because he's black and a woman captain because she's a woman, do I want to risk that a character is just not going to develop? Because for me, Riker never did develop. Well, I guess it's not quite an hour. I think I've said everything I had to say. What the fuck is Riker? Any good candidates? Really serious, please. It's kind of hard to say, please put your comments in the comment box, when you've already said it ain't gonna work, because all you have to do is watch an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And, I did like Star Trek The Next Generation, but just all through it, I had to keep trying to convince myself there was a reason there was a Riker. But what I came up with is, instead, what I came up with was, I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit. Thank you, and have a nice day.